I've been drawn in to this giant patch of Japanese knotweed. Look at the size of it. Absolutely huge. It looks like it was burnt out maybe in the summertime, and you can already see that the sprouts have started to come up. Now, burning is not a very effective method of trying to get rid of this. The most reliable method is to dig it out, but the roots go so incredibly deep. It is such a challenge unless you have big excavating machines. So yeah, locals or councils often come and burn it or inject it with glyphosate, but it doesn't tend to work, and you can see here that it's already starting to shoot back, and we're not even in spring yet. But it wasn't the Japanese knotweed in particular that drew me over. It was actually these mushrooms that, I don't know if you can see from there, but they're actually growing in a ring around this burnt out patch, an almost perfect ring in fact, and they're actually fruiting exactly on the perimeter of the burn patch. They're not exceeding it, and there's none inside. They are all just along this perimeter here. So what I imagine is happening, since these mushrooms are ectomycorrhizal, they usually form partnerships with trees like pine and birch, but the nearest birch tree is just over there. It's not too far. But what I'm thinking is happening is that the mushrooms, or the mycelium, is actually attached to the root system of this birch tree over here. But this burn patch has just created the ideal fruiting conditions for these mushrooms. So whether it's changed the soil chemistry or something, it's really liked whatever's happening here. And yeah, there are lots and lots of mushrooms popping up all on the edges of this circle, which is really cool. So the brown rollworms, or Paxillus involutus, are deadly poisonous. They were once thought to be edible, and quite a famous death from these mushrooms was Julius Schaffer, I believe his name was, a German mycologist who ate a few too many of these mushrooms in various dishes, and he eventually died. So the way these mushrooms work is that they actually trigger an autoimmune system response, and the first time that you eat them, or the first couple of times or few times, you might be absolutely fine, but they can eventually destroy your red blood cells and trigger things like organ failure or even death as well. So they're not one to be messed with, these brown rollworms, but luckily they're quite easy to identify. Let me come a bit closer and I'll show you. This is a good couple here, and these gills actually bruise when you touch them, so it's quite a good identifying feature. But you can see how this cap rolls under, which gives it the name of rollworm. They've got quite a firm and chunky stipe to them, quite short, and also this big cap that flattens out as well. The inside flesh is kind of a lemony yellow colour, and it's fairly firm. The stipe is very, very firm, and it's got this dark colouring at the bottom, slightly lighter at the top there, and these gills are very, very crowded, and they bruise when you damage them. So that's the birch that's not too far away. Mushroom rings are known to fruit as much as 20 metres away from their host tree, which is quite mad. But closer are these two salix, I believe goat willow, but I mean, willows are notoriously difficult to identify down to species because they hybridise so readily. So what you're looking at is often not a true species, but they look to be mostly goat willow dominant. But I don't know of any brown roll rims that are mycorrhizal with the salix genus. So I might just not know about that, and they might very well be forming a relationship with this tree here, or these couple of trees. But I feel like more likely it's with this big old birch over here. But unconfirmed, do not know, mystery. Really cool though. Look at them. Don't eat them. This pretty pink mushroom is a rosy bonnet, or Mycena rosea, and these are a toxic mushroom, or poisonous. They used to be considered edible, but they've been found to have quite low levels of muscarine. Muscarine is a toxic alkaloid that's found in Amanita muscaria, where it was actually first found, even though Amanita muscaria actually contains quite little muscarine compared to some other species like Inocybe, fiber caps, or the clitocybe genus have got much more muscarine in and are responsible for quite a lot of the muscarine poisonings. But this does actually contain trace amounts, so it's not one for the basket, but a very, very pretty mushroom to find out in the woods. These can get confused with the lilac bonnet, which is usually a little bit smaller than this, but one giveaway is the shape of the stem. Can you see how it kind of gets a little bit larger at the bottom? It sort of tapers towards the top, and on the lilac bonnet it's kind of uniform all the way down the stem. It loves mixed deciduous woodland and places where there's scrub. Look at these apples. I love this apple tree. It's a very odd little crab apple tree, lovely shape. Usually do get quite infested though, but it usually produces so many that you can just have your pick from them. I'm not going to harvest any of the apples now because I don't want to be carrying around huge baskets with me, so I shall come back for those. There are a lot of sloes on here, but you might remember, if you've been watching my videos for a while, back in the spring I noticed that these flowers on this shrub were deformed and they had quite a few more petals than what they should have had, and I concluded that it was herbicide drift from this patch of burnt Japanese knotweed that's just down here. So I won't be harvesting any of those sloes, but look at this! Check out these! This is Dyer's woad, or Dyer's weed, and this is an excellent dye plant when it's in full flower. It's starting to go to seed now, but this is an excellent dye plant, and it produces a different colour at this time of year with the seeds, but in the summer when it's got bright yellow flowers it produces a very vibrant yellow dye. It's a pretty cool plant, but all of these seeds produce a slightly more grey-green colour at this time of year. Tell you what, the hawthorns are very plump this year, and there are a lot of them on every shrub and tree that I've come across. But look at this! This tree looks like it's leaning under all of the weight of these apples. I think it's actually just how the tree's growing, but the branches are completely weighed down to the floor with apples. Have you ever seen so many on one little tiny tree? This little tree literally couldn't cram any more apples on her branches if she tried. Wow, I think I'll be definitely filling up a couple of my baskets with these on the way out. They have all different sizes. I think these actually grow to be quite large apples, but it looks like there's so many on the trees that they could have done with thinning out. If these were in my garden, I would have thinned these apples out to about 2 per clump, just to give them space to grow, and then you'd get a couple of big apples rather than all these little ones. But these are the wild trees, and they grow how they please. Is that a bright red apple up there? How perfect does that apple look? Oh, it's actually got a bite in it. Or these look like tasty apples. You can see a big brown birch bolete down here. Oh, it's looking alright too. Yeah, this one's still pretty firm. What are you guys? Very interesting cap colour. It's almost lilac. Oh, this is a Cortinarius. I know this like name for this. This is the pearly webcap, but it's flushed with albaviolaceus. Cortinarius albaviolaceus. I think these are. They've got this kind of pearly white or lilac white sort of colour into them, and it's quite distinctive because it's got kind of like a silky sort of cap colour, and it's a little bit lighter towards the cap centre. But this is Cortinarius, which means it's a web cap, which means underneath, just connecting the cap to the stem, was once a partial veil, which is called a cortina, and it's kind of like a cobweb sort of fine veil covering which attaches the cap margin to the stem, and this is a good feature of the web caps. And you can actually see the remnants of it here, just on the cap margin. Can you see these little rusty coloured fibrils or little fibres? And this isn't always still present just like on other mushrooms where the ring can rub off, the little cap remnants can rub off this too. Just look underneath the cap and see if you can see any kind of rust coloured gills, rust on the stem, or any sort of rust coloured fibres on the cap, because that will almost definitely mean that you've got a webcap rather than the mushroom that you're probably looking for. Some of the Cortinarius genus are deadly, so you do have to be very, very careful when you're picking any sort of violet or purple coloured mushrooms, or any mushrooms at all for that matter. Right, you don't see many of these. These are absolutely delicious, one of my favourite sorbus berries. This is the Swedish white beam, and it produces these lovely fruits. If you've ever had a rowan berry raw, you'll know that they've got quite an astringent kind of bitter flavour, but these, you can just eat them fresh and they're really nice. They've got an almost tropical kind of flavour to them, but this is one of the only trees I know in this area, and these berries are really, really enjoyed by like thrushes and waxwings, so I try not to take too many. The ones that I do harvest I just take from the lower branches and leave them all of the mid to upper berry clusters. But these are fairly easy to identify. There's quite a few different white beam species in the UK, but this is the Swedish white beam. Underneath it's got these dense mat of white hairs. It's got between, I don't know, 6 to 9 lobes usually, and these lovely red berries with little hairs or tassels at the end where the flowers have been pollinated. These rose hips are perfect. I'm definitely going to gather a few of these as well. Right, that's enough rose hips from this little shrub, and I'll carry on and see if I can find any more along the way. We've got a very, very nice young and firm birch bolete here. Oh my god, it's literally crawling. Hang on. These are bristletails. I forget which type of bristletail, and I can't remember the Latin name for them. I've got these in a book on soil organisms that I have at home, so I'll have a little look and I'll pop it on the screen. Now, I don't think these are going to stick around for very long because they're quite susceptible to drying out, so that's why they kind of stay hidden in these moist spots. So this little habitat at the base of this birch bolete is going to be absolutely perfect for them. I can see them all trying to wiggle their way back inside now. But I'm actually really stoked to see these here because if I remember rightly, they are an indicator of healthy soil, and this place is under a bit of regeneration. It used to be an old coal mine, so the soil is a little bit polluted, but over the past 30 years it's quite clear that all of these fungi and plants are doing their jobs, and the soil seems to be getting in a better condition if it's harbouring these little crazy life forms. Yeah, the forest can have that one back. Hello. Hello. Hi. How are you? What are you up to? Look at this down here. I don't know if you can see the red through all of the red berries, but can you see this amazing amanita patch? Oh my gosh. Can you see those over there? These huge patches just keep on finding me. Hey, Mr. Robin. Look at them. Oh my gosh. This is the third big patch in a completely different woodlands that I've found. This year is just such an incredible year for fly agarics. I'm wondering if it's going to be a very magical autumn. It's an indicator of something special going on. So these are all very well hidden in scrub. Look at them though. And then down here. I'm collecting a few of these very small cute ones to dry out and use as Christmas decorations. I do this every year. And it's time for a bit of a restock because I composted my ornaments from last year. They were about 7 or 8 years old and it's time for some fresh ones. Oh, hello, you're singing me a lovely song. I've got a friend today, following me around all day, just singing to me. It's like the most special thing. They say robins appear when lost loved ones are near, and October is my mum's birth month, and she absolutely loved October, so October always reminds me of her. Come on then, little one, come sit in my hand. Come on, you've been following me around all day. Come and take a seat. Anyway, I was just looking actually at these aniseed funnels down here. You can see all of this leaf litter just at the base of the mushroom. These are saprobic fungi, so they're helping to break down all of this lovely woodlands. And its favourite habitat is kind of scrub really, just exactly like what are in here. All of these brambles, new kind of pioneer woodlands. These are edible. These are quite common, but I don't tend to find them too much. They do appear in this woodlands most year, but never in as many numbers as what I've been finding this year. So I'm actually going to harvest a few to take home because these are edible and it can fill up my little basket in there. Look how many milk caps. Yeah, milk caps are down here. Look how many. You can tell milk caps because they've got these concentric rings, and when they get older they kind of have that depressed centre. But this one looks to be the woolly milk cap. Look at all of those kind of fibres on top of the cap there. And if I break these, should exude some milk, although I do find that these don't lactate as much as some of the other milk caps. So you'll find these mushrooms mostly listed as poisonous in most guides, and they are toxic. Just want to appreciate those beautiful textures on that cap. You see all of that fluffy seed heads from the rosebay willow herb or fireweed, Caminera mangustifolium. That's another seed head that's really great for flash tinder. This is all of the fluff has kind of gone from this, but these sticks are still quite useful. And then just in front of it here, we've got the dried seeds of angelica. I actually love using angelica seeds. I've put them in bread and in biscuits as well. These are delicious. You have to know your umbellifers before you start collecting seeds from them at this time of year if you're not familiar, because if you don't know what hemlock seeds look like, then you do want to be quite wary because they are toxic. But these little guys here are the seeds of angelica. Check out that gorse flower. These are in the pea family, and if you've ever grown peas, you'll see that the flowers are formed very similarly. These have got a little bit of a taste of pea at this time of year. And check out all of this papery birch. Just seeing this little fire pit here, but to me it looks like someone was trying to burn out this area because they've laid all of the sticks in the middle and radiated them all out towards the rest of the trees. There's loads of junk around here, which makes me think that people just hang out here and maybe cause a bit of trouble. But luckily it didn't all catch fire. Check out all of these hawthorn berries. Very dark, aren't they? There is actually a garden variety of hawthorn called Crataegus nigra, or the black hawthorn berry. Berries on that are much darker. I believe this is probably going to be a hybrid, as there's lots and lots of different types of hawthorn growing here or next to each other. So I reckon it's just going to be some sort of mongrel berry, but I'm going to pick quite a few and make a syrup with each of the different varieties, see which one's the best. I'll see if I can make some sort of blend. That's the fun of wild food. Basket's starting to fill up quite nicely there. What's really cool about these hawthorn in the sunshine over here is, can you see all of this yellow lichen? This is Anthoria, and it gets very, very bright, vibrant yellow in the sunshine. So if I come to this hawthorn that's just behind it here, that doesn't get as much sunlight because it's in the shade of this hawthorn, you can see that there are patches of yellow, but as we go in, the trunks aren't nearly as covered in lichen as this one here. It's really cool. It's a good way of finding south, or the sunniest side. Got a fairy path leading me somewhere. These guys, these are the poison pie, Hebeloma crustuliniforme, and these are a very, very common mushroom that sometimes forms fairy rings. I don't often find them in fairy rings, but this has formed a very, very lovely little pathway along here. But this is quite a common mushroom that you can find in meadows or woodland edges, and it's quite distinguishable because it's got these little tiny dots on the gills when they get a little bit older. You can even see them sometimes when they're younger, but it's a little bit harder to kind of see. You can see it looks like they glisten when they're younger. But these could be confused with fairy ring champignons. I mean, they grow a lot bigger than what you generally find fairy ring champignons, but because the gills are free on these, they're not attached to the stem, and they form fairy rings in the right kind of habitat. They could be mistaken, but you don't want to get these confused because these are a toxic mushroom. But a way that you can kind of tell the difference is, like I say, there's little dark dots on the gills, but also the stem is quite different. You have a very smooth stem on a fairy ring champignon, whereas this has almost, let me zoom in and try and show you, it's a little scaly. Can you see? I tend to find them quite a lot on these grassy edges. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is one of my favourites. It's a waxcap, and this is absolutely amazing to see because, like I say, this is an ex-coal mine, shut down in the 90s, so it's had a good 30, almost 40 years to regenerate, and that is exactly around the same time that waxcaps need to come back. They're not very tolerant to pollution or fertiliser or too much disturbed soil. And they take around 30 years to properly colonise the grasslands in order to fruit. And I have seen these here 1 or 2 times before, but look how perfect. There's a little cluster down here. These are called witches' hats. So these, or the blackening waxcaps, these actually start to blacken as they get a little bit older. You can see it's starting to darken on the very nipple there. But these are absolutely gorgeous and a great one to find in October. Very, very apt. I'll take this back and show you it, see if it's changed colour. I won't be picking any of these. It's funny they're called poison pie, isn't it? But I guess it is a good warning. But these did actually used to be called, I think, the fairy cake mushrooms, which makes them sound quite delicious, doesn't it? I'm actually just looking for a couple more brown birch bleats before I go home. No way. Ask the forest, and the forest shall provide. These look pretty solid as well. Now these look good. I'm trying to just thin these apples out and give the others a little bit more room to grow, because I think they can hang on to the branches for another month or so. So I'm just going to take some of the bigger ones and help the tree out, because it's quite laden and the branches are heavy. It looks like some of them might snap. It's always good practice when you're foraging to try and look at how you can help the plant or tree out, rather than just taking. There's always a way that you can help, whether it's pruning the right branches, taking the right pieces of fruit. The more you learn about individual plants and landscapes and ecosystems as a whole, you can start to get in tune with what plants need or what they would like from you in return. One of my favourite pieces of apple folklore that my mum told me was that if you take a really long apple peeling, she used to do it really good. She used to be able to peel the entire apple all in one. But then you throw it over your shoulder, and whatever letter it falls would be the first initial of your future love, which I think is pretty cool. I think that might be enough for me now. It's getting quite heavy. I'm going to get back to the car.